Alright, so in today's video, we'll be discussing the rise in the Leave survivors on the floor meta, why it happens, and what it means. With the recent changes throughout the last year in Dead by Daylight, intended gameplay mechanics such as hook states being made 10 seconds longer per state, the nerfing of perks like Pain Resonance and Pop Goes the Weasel, rendering the effort of physically hooking the survivor to be significantly less rewarding than just leaving them on the floor, to the power of perks survivors get passively just for being hooked to even begin with, to name a few being Dead Hard, Resurgence, Decisive Strike, Deliverance, Shoulder the Burden, and Reassurance. And that's just a handful of perks that reward you for being on the hook, all just off the top of my head. Perks that only ever take any form of effect if the survivor is hooked or unhooks another survivor. In short, you actually make your experience on Killer even more difficult by actually going for hooks, because of the sheer power of the effects that these perks the survivors get for being hooked. And as previously stated, perks like Pain Resonance, Pop, Grim Embrace on the Killer side have all received nerfs that have made the effect and bonuses that you get for hooking them almost negligible in offsetting the time you spend going for a hook. As often, 4 survivors will be working on 4 different gens at the same time from the start of the match. You chase one, down them. Maybe that takes around 30 seconds or less depending on the map and tile RNG, so that's 30 seconds of progress on 3 different generators, rendering 3 different gens, almost halfway done by the time you even get your first hook. And that's not even factoring in the time that you have to then spend to pick them up, walk them to a hook, endure the hook animation, then walk across the map to get to a different gen on the other side of the map. And just like that, 3 different generators are pretty much gone by the time you've already gotten your first hook. I'm going to throw in a little clip of the time that you expend physically hooking a survivor after downing them right here. That was video footage from Yumi Ninjin's stream. You could check out their Twitch channel in the description below, but I was just using that footage to illustrate my point of the sheer time lost going for the pickup after you down a survivor, to then have to walk across the map after that hook, being almost a 30-second expense of your time or longer, just for a survivor to possibly not even be there, when you can instead just leave that survivor on the floor, causing one of the other 3 to have to stop what they are doing, run across the entire map to pick them up. Meanwhile, you're likely already chasing another survivor, meaning they're likely down to 1 survivor at most working on generators, which is ideally what you want in a game of Dead by Daylight. Now, just a few days ago, Behavior released a roadmap for their Quality of Life Initiative 2025, where they will be implementing a surrender option if all 4 survivors become incapacitated. But they also said closer to the end of the year, there will be a Phase 2 with continued improvements towards anti-slugging, as well as anti-tunneling and anti-camping. Now, general logic would dictate that Behavior should implement base game mechanics that actually incentivizes and encourages hooking unique survivors, as opposed to leaving them on the floor or removing them as quickly as possible, still being the best course of action towards winning. But Behavior's track record has been quite the opposite. They've implemented measures to make those gameplay strategies less lucrative, but haven't added any actual measures to positively reinforce the killer not engaging in those playstyles that is actually beneficial for them. If hooking a unique survivor at a base level actually had a positive effect for you, be it a buff in some way or something otherwise worthwhile for you, you would actually likely see a significant decrease in those tactics, such as being removed instantly off first hook and then focused on until you are dead. Instead, any and all positive effects and bonuses you get for unique hooks on survivor are all locked behind continually diminishing perks that are frequently on the receiving end of nerfs. Meanwhile, almost every new update comes a new perk for a survivor that rewards them for being hooked in some way with some of the strongest effects in the entire game, such as endurance on command like Dead Hard, or a fully healed survivor throwing themselves in the killer's face because they will still have off the record in play after being healed in 4 seconds because they had Resurgence on, and possibly still have DS to weaponize on you after downing them again. And it's just as likely whatever further anti-slugging changes comes towards the latter half of the year will just further gut any agency that the killer actually has at dictating the pace of the match. All that said, this is why the uptick in the slugging meta has come into effect. It has now become more lucrative to just leave a survivor on the floor rather than deal with a litany of perks that outright reward them for being hooked in the first place. Now, there's still perks like Unbreakable, Boon Exponential, and We're Gonna Live Forever, which, while good against slugging, still requires the survivors to scramble across the map more than the current intended way of hooking survivors, where the other survivors will typically just wait out the clock on a survivor's hook state and put progress towards gens in that time, then swoop in the last 10 seconds, since there's no real urgency to unhook a survivor. Most of the things I've pointed out in this video I've been saying for years, but Choy and PallyLIVE's recent videos have put more eyes onto those things as of late. Now, will you see the slugging tactics in every match? No, probably not. You probably won't even see it 1 out of 10 games you play. But I've definitely seen it happening more often, as I've experienced it a handful of times in the last few weeks of my Survivor matches. I just thought I should throw in this quick video review in the end here as well. Another one of Choy's recent videos that showcases exactly what I have been saying for years. Let's get to it real quickly. Alright, so I think this is the part in the video where he actually is just about to down 2 people, right? Now, another factor to bear in mind here is he actually did hook this Adam. The Adam was the only survivor he has hooked so far this entire game, because at the time it was more beneficial for him to actually hook the survivor. Now, because of that hook state, that Adam now had dead hard, which means instead of 3 survivors on the floor, you now have just that Adam going across the entire map and only 2 survivors on the floor, which means the Adam is still in play and can do whatever he does when he otherwise would have been on the floor had he never been hooked. So he got a bonus and beneficial effect strictly for being hooked that never would have been there if he was never hooked in the first place. If he was never hooked, there would be 3 survivors on the floor right now, and he would be able to go for the ace and just end the game right there at 2 generators.
Right?
Now right here, Choy is talking about it makes sense to commit to this chase with Adam, but if the hook never happened, this Adam never would have had dead hard, and there'd be 3 on the floor right now.
Look at how severely I get punished for trying to go for this 1 hook.
And he even points it out right here. He is severely punished. I don't think he mentioned the dead hard, though. The dead hard that never would have existed had the hook never happened, right? But because of that dead hard that happened, that Adam now has time to W across the map and run through a litany of pallets, and that ace is able to reset the survivors just fine.
Could cost me the game right there. Bro's like just looping me like crazy here. Like, I have so much pressure going, and now I get a full reset off of nothing. Oh, shit.
It's not off of nothing, really. It's that 1 dead hard from that unhook that caused a full reset of these other survivors. 1 singular dead hard that was given as a reward for being hooked, further punishing the killer for having hooked that survivor in the first place.
Even fucking comp cornered on top of it. I lose everything because of 1 hook, guys. Imagine how bad you're hurting yourselves when you hook. I should have just not gone for him.
Oh, and he even highlights it here. Even bothering to hook this guy initially gave that guy dead hard, which allowed the ace to be reset, the Vittorio to be reset, and I don't know if she gets reset before he gets back across the map, but it's just further establishing my point. Had that hook never happened and that dead hard never occurred, the game would be over right now.
Because, like I said, in the end, I get nothing for that hook. They get a full reset. He's still alive. Maybe they have shouldered the burden. I get nothing. Complete waste of my time.
Precisely, that 1 hook, so waste of his time. Alright, we're going to see another thing coming up here really soon, where that same Adam with his build gets rewarded for being hooked again. It's coming up real soon. So as you can see, the Adam has been healed up. right off that unhook. Already fully healed.
Still gets chased for a while.
And you can see the Adam coming up to throw himself in the way here. Because he knows he is untouchable at this very moment.
I think he used this pallet, didn't he? No, it was on purpose. Of course it was.
He uses his so-called anti-tunnel perks, quote-unquote, to throw himself in the killer's face and punish the killer for having hooked him. Therefore, being rewarded for his failure state of being hooked. As you can see here, the DS from the fully healed survivor, by the way. That would have never been in play had this hook never gone through.
At least stay away. He might take the hit for him out of desperation.
And just like that, General W at 2 generators turns into barely winning the game. Barely winning the game by a hair. Simply because he hooked that Adam. Outright punished for playing the game the way that behavior intends you to play it, by cycling through hook states, when you could just leave the survivor on the floor, and that dead hard and DS would have never been a factor in the match. Now that's just another video example that I've dropped in this video, but stuff like that happening, such as people offensively throwing their anti-tunnel perks in your face, is a near every game occurrence, and until you see significant changes to things like this happening and how strong those perks are, you will continually see an uptick in the slugging meta. Anyway, if you liked what you saw here, I do stream Dead by Daylight over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/AbsolvedLIVE, link in the description below, where you can find me live. Anyway, until next time.